CannabisCulture.com, that probably is. Cannabis Culture, of course, was the name of the magazine that Mark put out for many years. It's still a publication. It's internet only at this point, but for many years it was a hard magazine as well. Like but Canada.
Yeah, I lived in California about 10 years ago when they passed the medical initiative, and I voted it through. And
what a change that has caused, by the way. You know, there's an interesting little side point there. We won 11 states. About 11 states to decriminalize minor marijuana offenses in the 1970s. But by 1978, the last state to do that at the time was Nebraska. And the mood of the country turned conservative after that. And for 18 years, we didn't win a single statewide reform effort. That's a long time to go without a major victory. But starting with the California medical use law in 1996, the mood of the country has come back in our direction. There is no doubt about it that that 96 initiative did more to open people's eyes to the fact that not only is marijuana not the devil's weed, it is a wonder drug. It is the most important medicine for tens of thousands of seriously ill patients. And think about it. If marijuana helps cancer patients and AIDS patients and MS patients and Crohn's patients and on and on and on, are you really suggesting that it helps all of those sick people, but those of us who are healthy should be treated like criminals because we're not sick enough? What is wrong with that thinking?
Right. I got to say, too, and on my behalf, I always have felt like I jokingly, because I am also a stand-up comic, I'll jokingly call pot my Prozac. But the truth of the matter is, though, I've had several doctors try to prescribe me things for anxiety and mood and things, and I've hated them and the effect they had on me. But pot works for me personally in that same respect of what they're trying to do.
Oh, I think without question that many people who consider themselves recreational marijuana smokers may in fact be self-medicating. They simply, haven't thought about it that way. I've been smoking marijuana now. I first started smoking in 1965 when I was a freshman at Georgetown Law School here in Washington, and I've been a regular smoker ever since, 45 years. I don't consider myself a medical user. I smoke because I enjoy it. I like to relax in the evening and watch the news and roll myself a joint. But I have realized over these last 15 years, as the medical use issue has become more prominent, like you, I suspect that many times when I'm rolling that joint in the evening, what I'm really trying to do is relax. I'm trying to get over the troubles of the day, and I'm doing the same thing that a lot of other people do with Xanax and other prescription drugs. The difference is marijuana doesn't have any side effects.
Exactly. And my point exactly. And those, I got to say, those drugs, anyone I ever tried, and they tried me on like 3 or 4 of them, they all had bad side effects and all made me feel, I didn't like the way they made me feel at all, physically or mentally.
Well, and also you do kind of get the feeling that somehow drug use is fine as long as some American corporation can make money off of it. But if it's something we grow ourselves and share among our culture, somehow that's an evil substance. Well, I think that's an example of our corporate America going nuts.
The FDA is a whole other radio show. That's a whole other topic,
Yeah, no kidding. And we're definitely we agree on that point as well, man. We're real skeptical of that whole MMA and the drug companies and the FDA, and they're that, like he said, is a whole other show. Right now, the important thing is what's going on here in these next few months with this California law being on the ballot for November, right?
And how we can help, Mark.
I think it's the single most important political development that has occurred in the 40 years that NORML's been in existence. We started this group back in 1970, so we've been at it a long time, but we've made more progress in the last 3 years than in the prior 37 years. And if this initiative passes, it will be an earthquake, I assure you, and it won't just be limited to the United States. It'll be something that a lot of other countries, like Jamaica, for example, that has been wanting to legalize marijuana for a couple of decades, and every time they start to do it, the U.S. government threatens them with a lot of loss of aid and loss of trading privileges, etc.
Right.
So So we're gonna change the scenery on drug policy all around the world if this initiative passes, and I fully expect that it will.
We want to be out there and help people get that word out. We're going to be doing that because we crisscross the country, and of course, a lot of my friends are out there doing the same. You actually know another friend of mine, I know you know, who was really got the shaft as far as the marijuana laws going. That's my buddy Tommy Chong.
Oh, of course. Tommy's a member of our advisory board. Tommy's a fabulous fellow, of course. He's still just funny as hell, and I love it that he's gotten back in the issue. You know, Tommy was, like a lot of people, for a long time, Tommy was a smoker, but he wasn't active in the legalization movement.
Right.
The government made the mistake of prosecuting Tommy for selling a few bongs. As you remember, his wife and his son were running a business that he'd set up for Tommy Chong bongs. And those fools didn't think they have anything more serious to do than to go after a bong seller, even though, you know, there are thousands of other companies, but they're not as prominent as Tommy Chong.
Well, that's what I wanted to say is that, you know, I'm friends with Tommy and was actually on tour with him during those years, and I knew him right when that all went down, and what he told me in the interview of how they kind of gave him the option of, because his name wasn't even really on the company, it was his son and his wife's company, and they gave him the option of they go to jail or you go to jail, you take the pick.
Yeah, he was an honorable man, of course, and once he saw his wife and son were being squeezed, he stood up. And remember, he actually served, I think it was 11 months in federal prison. That's not easy to do if you've been a Hollywood celebrity and used to a good life. It's not easy for anybody, but it surely must have been a challenge for Tommy.
And what my point was, my argument the whole time, if I may, was that being on tour with Tommy, you know, every place we went, it was pipes, it was glass pipes and bongs were available in every town there, but because of some you know, technicality about, I think the fact that they even said for pot or whatever, but it was some technicality where they got them for the interstate trafficking through Pennsylvania is the law they used, but
well, they did it under federal law is what they did. They ordered the bongs and had them shipped from California out to, one was in Pennsylvania, I think one was in Ohio or someplace. Right. And it was nothing less than selective enforcement. As you say, every town to where he does a show, they sell pipes in those towns. That's just silly. But again, I think the government was the loser in that, because once they prosecuted Tommy, let me tell you, he has been one hell of a legalizer and an advocate for legalizing marijuana ever since, and he's one of our most effective advocates.
That's awesome, because they lit a fire where they didn't know, you know. They started something with Tommy. In fact, we're going to see him coming up in October again, and I can't wait. You know, I got an interview with him on my show when he first got out after his incarceration, and he was really, he wasn't very candid. He was saying he was setting off to change that stuff.
Well, remember that when he first got out, he had some probation period there too, and he probably had to be a little.
And he was actually, he was actually still on probation, and that's what he said. He made a reference. He's got 20-something days, and when he's off, he's turning his attention to the marijuana laws.
Yep, and he certainly did, and he's a valuable ally, I can tell you.
Well, now you yourself, you were around, and I read your bio there online that you actually were one of the ones who started the organization NORML.
Yes, I had gotten out of law school during the anti-war years, the anti-Vietnam War years, and I'd been radicalized by the anti-war movement. And the first 2 years out of law school, I worked for consumer advocate Ralph Nader. Specifically, I worked for something called the National Commission on Product Safety, but it was an outgrowth of Ralph's work. And after those 2 years, I was charmed by the idea of being an attorney that represented the public interest instead of private interest, but auto safety wasn't the issue I cared about, although I admire Ralph for the work he was doing there. The issue that was important to me in my generation was legalizing marijuana. So I honestly set up NORML as an outgrowth of the experience I'd had with Ralph Nader, and I'm delighted that I did it because it's proven to be a fascinating life. And I think, although I've never learned how to make money, and I suppose I could have tried to be a rich lawyer, I think my life has been a lot fuller because of the fact that we've been working on this issue for the last 40 years.
And we can't tell you how glad we are that you started this and how much a part you guys have been of changing this. And even though it was, like you said, 37 lean years before you really started to make stuff happen, man, it's awesome that you guys stayed with it and stuck with it for that long. And I got to tell you, I actually had a run-in with the Ohio chapter of NORML once when I was with Tommy on tour. And it was the funniest situation because it got me fired from the club I was working at. and it got fired for something that Tommy said should have been on my resume. Because what happened is the folks from NORML came down and they wanted me and Tommy. They had a big joint that was literally about 7 inches long and about an inch around, an inch in diameter. Yeah, and they wanted us to both puff off of it and get some pictures of us puffing off it. Then they wanted us to sign it, and they were going to put it in some case somewhere. So I was out back, and I was puffing on it and had it flaming up like an old cigar, smoke around my head, flash bulbs going off, and the owner of the club walked out the back, man, and everybody scattered. And, yeah, long and the short is I got fired.
Well, you know, one thing that reminds me I should make this distinction. There certainly are other very good groups that work on drug law reform in this country. The difference between NORML and the others is we are a marijuana smokers lobby. We're not ashamed of the fact we smoke. We talk about it all the time, and it's terribly important that smokers get the courage to come out of the closet. But it's only by coming out of the closet that we can overcome the negative stereotypes that a lot of people still have about marijuana smokers, and it's the only way that we can have the political power to which our numbers entitle us. To a lot of elected officials, I mean, you could talk to members of Congress who would say, well, I don't think I have any marijuana smokers in my district.
Right.
Well, you got a lot of marijuana smokers, but they're in the closet.
Well, you know, I just say as I toured, and on my show, even before I started touring with Tommy, my show was pretty much like Cheech and Chong's. I was pretty forward about my pot smoking, and but I have the look, you know. I look the part, darn it, just like Tommy. So I look the part. But I would always, because my show is very disarming and people feel very comfortable afterwards talking to me about it, I was always surprised at they ran the gamut from as far as smokers, you know, people you wouldn't think of, you know, guys who were, you know, businessmen or such, you know, or ladies who are businesswoman. But like the ones that would really kill me would be people in their 60s, you know, passing me a joint after the show. Hey, I know you're in a strange neighborhood. Here you go, a little something, you know. And it's like that. It was like it would never cease to amaze me how across the board marijuana smokers really were.
They're even showing in some of the federal data over the last 2 years of who smokes marijuana, they're showing a tick upward of about 5% a year in people 55 and above. And I think what it is, it's people who are empty nesters. You know, they probably smoked when they were young, but then they were raising a family and they were busy and they didn't have time to smoke. At least they didn't feel comfortable. Well, the kids are grown and gone and they're semi-retired. Let me tell you, they got time on their hands. And smoking marijuana is a great way to fill it.
Right. They go back through the attic, cleaning up their kids' stuff, find their bong from the kids. Hey, there we go. There we go. He's in Tommy's room. Look, even a little stash. That's awesome. You know, Keith, I got to tell you, we love the work you're doing. We want to help you guys all along the way. We're going to check in with you from time to time, if you don't mind, through emails and whatnot. I'm going to turn you over to Joe just to get some more information on you, and we want to give you some information on how you can listen to the show we just did and how you can follow us as we help this cause and many others, because we do the same thing that we're doing for pot for independent starving artists nationwide.
Well, thank you for calling us, and call anytime. There is absolutely nothing wrong with smoking marijuana, and it's time we all stood up and said that.
Well, let me get to the point. Let's roll another joint. Turn the radio loud. I'm too alone to be proud. And you don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels.
Oh, man, what a great interview. What a great piece of history we just got on the Butch Radio Roadshow. I am blown away, man. I'm so excited.
You just don't know how it feels.
You don't know how it feels to be me, because I just had the founder of NORML, Keith Straub, on my show. That was awesome,
He
man.
was so accommodating. I called him up, set up the interview. No problem.
What a great guy, dude.
No problem. He said, well, I do about 2,000 to 3,000 a year. Why would I not do yours?
I love the cat. He was personable. The interview was very informative, and it's great to see somebody still in, I'm going to take a guess at his age, mid to late 60s.
Oh, yeah.
He said it. Did he say it in there, Andy?